You know, we've discussed in previous videos of why religion is so destructive. We've talked about being God's chosen people is so devilish that it has caused majority of the wars that we have seen in the last century. But we've also discussed about how the idea of superiorities has also created a destructive nature that has ravaged the world. Well, today we're going to continue talking about what makes religion incredibly destructive. But before we get started, I want to thank everybody for being here. I thank all my patrons, everybody who subscribed to this channel. If you're new to this channel, on this channel we talk about spirituality, sex, love, and money. We talk about everything under the sun. But it's all about you becoming a greater version of yourself. It's about you being better so that the world can be better and truly understanding the God Goddess inside you so that we can make ourselves and everything around us into our own divine reality. So I am your coach Renz, and let's get started on this one. So what makes religion so destructive? We can talk about how people have utilized religion as a control mechanism. We could talk about how the powerful have done that for centuries. We could talk about how false identifications and false teachings have caused people to believe that this person is God and that person is God, and believe that this person is closer to God, but yet they are all falling short. They're all not measurable to what you would call a God or a demigod. We could talk about the lack thereof of historical evidence of many of the world's religions. But that is not the most destructive portion of it, and what we will talk about today is the idea of that destructive nature. But we will also talk about how we can get better and not find ourselves falling into it, and actually be able to help others to see a better way of being. So when we talk about the destructive nature, well, let's start with the past and move forward. Why is it that in the far past, conquest rarely happened because of religion? The Japanese didn't conquer the Chinese because of religion. It was more about conquering land for resources. Most people in ancient times, when tribal or however you want to look at it, didn't conquer based on a religious effort. They conquered based on resources. War started based on resources. You have greater farmland. I need your farmland. I want your farmland. I'm going to take it. You have access to fresher water. I'm going to take your land. You have diamonds, gold, and other precious items. I'm going to take your land. You have oil. I'm going to take your land. You have access to the oceans, and we are landlocked. I'm going to take your land. So in previous times, it was a lack of resources that created an urge, a desire, a rationale that said that it is okay for me to conquer because I need those resources for myself. Trade wasn't good enough. You weren't superior enough for me to trade with you. So I had to find other mechanisms, and war became that mechanism. Conquest became that mechanism. But what happened? What happened was religion. Religion is what happened. And when I say religion, what I mean is modern day religion. The Abrahamic religions happened. And this changed conquest, this changed war into something out of, I want to say divine thought process, but it's like more anti-divine thought process. We're going to make up a new word, anti-divinity. Through anti-divinity, war changed. War became new. Through the Abrahamic religion, war across the face of the planet had a new identity. How did that happen? Well, we're going to start with the Judaic tradition. With the Judaic tradition, the original thought process of conquering another people wasn't in order for them to take resources. It wasn't because they were given a divine order to teach and graft others in. It was quite the opposite. You weren't supposed to be grafted in unless you became in through slavery or some other type of agreement. The woman came in, in the story of Ruth, she's Moabite, and here's Boaz, and he's a Hebrew, and he grafts in this Moabite woman, and now her children are Hebrew, and you get to the lineage of David through that, and theoretically through the idea of Jesus. So it wasn't to spread their teachings. They were very secluded in that, very possessive of their teachings, meaning that they didn't want other people to know it because they felt they were the chosen of God. So therefore, the Jewish people in ancient times, according to the stories, conquered to possess a land that they believe God ordained for them. That was their purpose. They did not go about trying to conquer the Babylonians. They didn't go about trying to conquer the Egyptians, the Kemetic. They didn't go about trying to conquer India. They didn't want to conquer Greece or conquer Rome or any other sort. Even when they were in rebellion towards the Romans, their idea was we are in rebellion to regain and maintain our promised land. So their religious wars for the Hebrew, for the Jewish, is about maintaining that land. Even in today's world, the country of Israel does not seek out conquering Iraq and conquering Saudi Arabia and conquering Kemet. They're not interested in that. They're interested in just what they deem the promised land by God. And that's where their religious wars first stem from. That's where their treachery of killing everyone. This is why we have things like the Geneva Convention today that says that there are non-combatants and we do not kill non-combatants. But yet, the treachery of the day was that they killed everyone in the village. All the men, all the young boys, all the old men, all the slaves, kill all the cattle, kill all the women who have known a man. But keep them young girls who've never known a man and make them your wife. Those things was all in the idea of possessing the land. But then here comes Christianity and Islam to boot. And a different mindset. Because this religion of Christianity was formulated and grew up and became the Roman religion. Rome was already a empire that conquered other lands for the sake of the land, for resources. But once Christianity was introduced, once the popes came to power, it became we must conquer in order to spread the message. That one little part where Yeshua supposedly said, go and tell all the Hebrews, then to the Samaritans, and then to all the world. You are to spread this message. But was this a message of love? Was this a message of understanding your inner divinity? No, this was a message that was the message. That was supposed to be the message according to the what is called the gospel, which if you understand the word evangelici or evangelicon, it is the spreading of good military news, military victory is what that word really means. But when you look at it from when it was written back during the time of Titus and Vespasian, it was the news of great military victory. Spreading this gospel that supposedly is turn the other cheek, love your neighbor as you would love yourself. This gospel of forgive 7 times 7 or 70 times 7. This gospel of let he who is without sin cast the first stone. This mindset gospel of that seemingly on the surface is filled with love and peace, when mixed in with the Romans, it became a religion of hate and racial superiority and national superiority. You see, you could have been Roman, but if you were more Sicilian, you were still lower caste. You could have been Roman, but if you was from one of the outer provinces, you were lower caste. So you still there was an air of superiority based on the Romans when they mixed in this Christianity and what they took hardcore was slaves. Be good to your masters, whether they are good or bad. If you don't beat your slave, if you beat your slave and he dies, you are to be punished. But if they can get up after a couple of days, you're good to go. This mindset, those teachings in there are personified more. Go teach the world. Go bring this Christianity to people. That became a war tool. That became something that was used to destroy people. To come and say, you are savages. You need to be brought up to a higher level. This is what the Christian message became. When they came into Africa, that was the Christian message. You are a heathen, damned to be going to hell, but we're going to save you through the blood of Christ. Psha! That's the message. We brought you over to America. What's your name? Kunta Kinte. Pop, your name is Toby, boy. What's your name? Kinte Kunte. Pop, your name is Toby, boy. That became the message. That became the message. Slaves will be made of all of you, because our book says that we can make slaves of foreigners and pass them along for generation after generation. That's what you became. That was the message. That is still the message. And where does it come from? It comes from the book. No misinterpretations, no taking out of context. It says that you can make slaves out of those who are foreigners who live amongst you, or those in foreign lands, and you can pass them for generation. It tells you those things. The only rules of slavery, if you make slaves, of people that look like you, which is why the Irish were indentured servants when they came here, or the Scottish were indentured servants when they came here. But the African was a slave. This mindset also said we must bring God, Christianity, this divine manifestation must happen across America, across Central America, across South America. Those indigenous heathens must be brought to bear. And that's one way we can put smallpox on the blankets. Let's conquer. We're conquering under the banner of Christianity, of our divine right. We're conquering across these nations. These indigenous people need to be brought Christianity. We'll bring them the sword and then give them the book. This same mentality is the mentality of Islam. The mentality of Islam is, if you do not worship Allah, then we can overtax you. If you do not worship Allah at the point of my sword, then I will kill you until that child converts. Child, I will kill you until this parent converts. The trans-Sahara slave trade brought this type of idea to the Southern African. This idea was brought to Europe during the Moorish invasion of Europe, that you will convert. We will build schools, we will build universities, we will teach you all these, we will teach you our technology, but you must convert over. We will force intermarriage between ourselves and your women so that our sons and grandsons will grow up in our traditions. So we're going to force these women, much the same as it was before when we conquered and took the women who did not have no man. We will take these Spanish women, we will take these Italian women, these Portuguese women that we have conquered after we ran across North Africa through the banner of Islam. If you saw my videos on the origins of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, you'll see that it was Ibn Sahi and Malik who ran across, and they used the idea of Allah to unite the Arab nation under one banner. And under that religious banner, the Arab nation became Muslim and conquered the Iberian Peninsula and the Italian Peninsula. Forced intermarriage. Much like the Greeks when they ran across Mesopotamia into India and then came up to Egypt. The Ptolemies' legacy is intermarriage, the Hellenization of the Kemetic people, in order to make sure that they had a lineage there. Arab people, you're a mixture of that Hellenization. That Hellenization that was initiated by Alexander the Great. You are a mixture, and you continued with your forefathers' idea when you went into the Iberian Peninsula and the Italian Peninsula. Religion became the rationale, the reason, the excuse to murder and to maim, to take and to control. And even in today's world, religion is still the excuse. Whether it is the religion of atheists, whether it is the religion of Christianity or Muslim, whether it is Jewish, no matter what it is, when the religion says that Buddhist monks come out of the mountains and force people to convert or cut off their heads, it is your religion that is causing you to do this. And most people, most of you listening are going to give me a thumbs down. Those who give a thumbs down, or those who want to argue, are going to say that that wasn't the true religion of God. And you might be right. You might be correct. That is man's hand on it. You might be right. You might be correct. But yet you are still in support of it. So instead, tear it down. I say tear it down. Break away from it. If the religion's history is not the true religion, if the book is being taught incorrectly, if the book has those things in it where it tells you to do these dastardly things, then tear it down. Look at nature. Look at the universe. Look at what was taught beforehand. And understand where the nature of the Creator really is. That the nature of the Creator is inside you. I had a gentleman wanting to argue with me at one point. Talking about how he got receipts. He got receipts. He's pointing to all these other books. Irenaeus, Athanasius, St. Jerome. Pointing to all these early church fathers. He deems scholarship to be scholarship. Let me say that one more time. He deems scholarship to be scholarship. It is not scholarship for me to read the writings of someone else and then regurgitate what they said and call myself a scholar. If I cannot look at nature, reason with my inner divinity, follow and see the path and patterns, then where is my scholarship? Now, there is nothing wrong with reading other people's materials and other people's ideas. But if all you do is regurgitate, if all you do is make that your own, scholarship is not scholarship. You can tell me about the pyramids, but when I see them, when I touch them, when I vibrate with them, when I come to understand the Meta-Netures, when I look at the cuneiform and I come to understand the cuneiform in the Sumerian writings and see the deeper understanding of it, that's different. We'll do a video soon about how these pastors are changing their message now to fit what is now being taught. But they're fitting it based on scholarship of other scholarship and making it scholarship instead of truly sitting and coming to divine understanding themselves. Why do people do this? Why do we allow religion? Why do we allow government to do this? Simply because they said we must go teach, and we have said this is why we must teach, and we have said this is why things are how they are. If you look at your religion today is nothing like how it was 500 years ago. As a matter of fact, if you was catching the Holy Spirit in church today, if you caught that today, 500 years ago, you would be deemed a witch. You would be deemed a warlock. You would be deemed possessed by demons, that you were in a demonic trance. But the religion has adapted. It has adapted to whatever the culture has said that it is to be. And that is what you have done. You've allowed the culture, just like you allow government. Just like you allow government. Think about it. Most of you run around needing an authority over you. The reason why you have to have your Bible, your Quran, your Torah, your Bhagavad Gita, your Vedics, the reason why you have to have these things is not out of research for wisdom, not out of giving you a spark to then go deep into your wisdom to go deep into yourself, to look at the inner divinity. The reason why you have to have those and you just follow them blindly, you don't study them, you don't research them, you don't dig deep into them, is because you need authority. You have to have an authority over you. If you do not understand that murder is wrong without a law to tell you that murder is wrong, you have a problem. If you do not understand that stealing is wrong without there being a law to tell you that stealing is wrong, you have a problem. If you do not understand that honoring your mother and your father is the right way for you to be without a book that tells you that you must honor your mother and father, you have a problem. And when a book has to go and tell you that, it is also a theft of your free will. This is going to be a little bit difficult for some people to understand fully. This concept, this idea, this thought process. You have the free will to relate to the world however you choose. How you relate to the world creates your reality. Now, in creating your own reality based on how you relate to the world, and you have free will, when you follow a book, when you follow a law, when you follow a government, when you follow a culture that tells you that in order for you to know God, in order for you to know the Creator, in order for you to be whole, in order for you to not murder, not steal, in order for you to love your mother and father, in order for you to love your children and take care of your children, if you need some outside authority to tell you that, then you do not have free will, because it is basically saying you cannot be an American citizen without you having this authority over you. You cannot be my son, my daughter without this authority over you. You cannot love God without having this authority over you. How is it that you have to have an authority of God to tell you not to covet your neighbor's wife, and that if you don't covet your neighbor's wife, then you are good to go? Why do you need 42 confessions of Ma'at to govern you, to be an authority over you? Shouldn't you already know that you should not steal? You should already know that you should not kill. You should already know that you should not blaspheme. You should already know that you should not do whatever the law that you focus on the most is telling you not to do. That in order to fulfill and go across the boat, to make sure that your heart is as light as a feather, and you can join you can join Osiris for those who only know the Greek name, but you can join Asar over on the other side. That Horus, Heru, will come and advocate for you. That only way you can know that, only way that happens, only way you are given that right, that privilege, is you have to obey this. And we have to tell you to obey it. That essentially is taking away your free will, because you do not have the choice to choose whether or not you obey it or not without somebody telling you. You see, now you're going to say, well, you do have free will because I hear the law, I hear the rule, I hear the confession, and then I'm given the choice of, do I follow it? Adam and Eve sat in a garden and they were told not to eat from the tree, and then they were given the free will to see if they would follow it. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if it was never told to them not to eat from the tree? That by not telling them to not eat from the tree, that maybe they would have ignored the tree altogether. Maybe they would have never thought about the tree. Maybe they would have never been tempted. It would not have given this serpent the opportunity to tempt Eve, according to the story. That the free will was never present because you was giving a rule beforehand. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, you're just living in anarchy if you don't have rules. But not necessarily. Not necessarily. Now, that story of Adam and Eve, for those who are going to go deep into that, I will say this. If they did not need to eat from the tree, why put the tree in the garden? What kind of God would do that? As a parent, Would you put a poisonous snake in your kid's room and say, don't touch the snake? Or just remove the poisonous snake? Would you leave poison on the counter next? And here's the thing about it. You put the poison in a nice cookie. Smells good. Smells good to the senses. It's beautifully made. It looks great. It looks awesome. And then you have that nice, good-looking cookie right there. I mean, it's a good-looking cookie. And then over here, you got some bland-looking porridge. And you say, you can have from anything on the table. Just don't eat this good-looking cookie. Why make it beautiful? If you didn't want them to eat the fruit, make the fruit look hideous. Put thorns and thistles on the fruit. Make it difficult to get to. Matter of fact, why not take the tree, put it way up on a high mountain far, far away from here? Why put it right in their midst? Oh, but God needed to test them. You need to test them? You made them. You made them. So you made them flawed. If you made them flawed, you knew they was going to make the mistake, then why go through the exercise? Why go through the process? Maybe because that's not the ideal. Maybe because the Sumerian story is totally different, but the same, and that story is just kind of like a brief version of that story. But we went through that in other videos. So go read the Sumerian and understand the Sumerian story. And you'll understand why the tree of life, the tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge, is not just a fruit, it's science. But if you're going as far as the allegory of the story, your free will, your choice is there for you. You do not need an outside authority, but you have been convinced that you do. That you must have some outside authority. Well, I want to teach you guys what you really are. You are a divine being. You are an offspring of the Creator. When the Creator made you and everything else, even the book, the Christian book says, and it was good. That everything that was created was good. On the sixth day, he created man and woman. After he made the beasts of the field, he made man and woman. Told them to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. It's according to the Torah, the Quran, and the Christian Bible. That's what he said. Now, that's what he said. And at the end of the evening, the day and the evening, and he looked and said, it is good. So if everything was good, and God makes everything good, people were going to say, well, then why do you need to tempt them if everything is good? What's the point? My children are very good kids. They make mistakes, and they will make some more mistakes. But for the most part, they're good kids. They're good children. What I do not do is tempt my children. I do not tempt them with things that I know could wreck their lives. Do I ask them questions about things and see what their thought process is? Of course. When we had our sex talks, I didn't just tell them, you don't do sex, you shouldn't have sex, sex is bad, you should gotta wait till you're married. And then, no, I told them, here's the deal, what do you think about sex? What is sex? And based on their age, they would give me their definitions, their thought process. I would correct them if need be and tell them what it is. Now I ask, what do you think you should do? What is the energy of sex? See, what I was working with my kids is the energy of sex. What is the energy of sex? And yes, is it good? Yes, it's good. But at your age, at the age of 12, the energy of sex can produce children. The energy of sex can produce, and we will talk about this when we do our live with our live with Zaire, of the energy of sex, if done incorrectly, done too early, done in a molesting situation, creates womb trauma. And you'll have to go through the process to relieve yourself of that trauma. It can create connections, energetic connections with people. Is this a person that you want to create this soul tie or this energetic connection with? That when you release your semen, that you are implanting your seed. You are also claiming your space. You are also claiming this individual as connected to you. Is that a decision that you want to make? Is that something you want? When you look at that girl, she's cute, she's pretty. You're looking at the peer pressure. You got all these energetic urges going on. Is that somebody you want to be connected to for the rest of your life? Is that somebody that, no matter how faint, there's always a thought. It comes to mind maybe once a year, once every 10 years, once every 20 years, but it's there. You created it. is that something you desire to have? If so, have sex. If so, make the connection. But if not, don't do it. That is free will. Given the information, given the consequences, possible consequences, and making your own decision as to what the outcome would be. Many people quote oftentimes that God knows every decision you're going to make. Well, if that's true, there's no free will. But you're given that. You have the ability. And since you have that ability, that means that everything around you is in relation to how you have related to it. Everything that has meaning is in relation to how you've related to it. That there is an energetic flow to every decision. There's an energetic flow to everything that you are and everything you do. Let me rephrase. I do not murder. Now I'm going to say it the way I want to say it. I do not murder because I've had the thought of murder. I know the energetic feel of murder, but it is not because I'm robbing someone of their life, but it is because I know that feel. I know that energy. And for myself, I don't want that feel. I don't want that energy. You see, having the choice is a selfish event. It's all about you. Because if I murder someone, yes, I've taken their life. Yes, I've deprived them of their liberties. And that is beyond my scope of what I should be able to do. I should not take someone of their liberties. But I've also injured myself. Because now a spirit of murder, that energy of murder is now on me. It's now something that's inside me. It's now something that I got to figure out how to forgive me for. How to let it be repentive out of me. How to find value again in me. And then how to love me again. But because I allowed that energy of murder to do that, I can't. And then any other times when someone threatens the life of my children and that energy of murder comes again. Do I give in to it, knowing the consequences of it? Or do I find another route? You see, this is why we have crime. This is why we have these things. Because there's an energy of all these things that everyone has felt. People misunderstand the teaching when he said, when Yeshua said in the teachings, if you just look at it allegorically, the woman had committed adultery. And they was going to throw stones at her because that was a death by a penalty. And he said, let he who cast the first stone, because if you even thought about it, that's the key part. If you even thought about having sex with that woman, then you've committed adultery in your mind. What he is saying, what the allegory of that story, if you are truly understanding of the Coptic or the Essenes or the mystery schools, you would know that what he's saying is that the energy that you have in the thought of having adultery with that woman, of committing adultery with that woman, is the same energy that you use to have the adultery. So it is not that you will ever be free of the energy, but you recognize it. You say, oh, that's that energy of adultery. I know all the consequences of it. See, the difference is that lady committed the act. I don't know what the dude was at. He should have been up there too. But she committed the act. But he's saying that the energy of it is present. What you have to learn is how to channel and rearrange and re-relate yourself to the energy of it. Now, for those who don't commit adultery, then they understand it because they saw that man, they saw that woman, they felt them emotionally, and they've had that desire. They've thought about it. They said it would be nice because what my relationship that I have at home, as I relate to it, it doesn't provide me what I need, but this person sure as hell look good. They're providing me that energy, but I know the consequences if I give in to that energy, so I'm going to bypass it. And year after year after year, because they see people, you see other humans all the time, and that energy is present, but as you have gotten stronger and stronger and stronger, you relate to it totally different. At one moment when it used to be something that you would deliberate about, now that energy is something that you dismiss with a breath. Breath. You don't even think about it. You see the good looking woman, they flirting with you, and just with a breath, you don't even think about it. When you know that you have a great energy, a converse energy at home, when this is the adulterous energy, but this over here on the other side of the pole is that intimate, loving energy, why would I take this when I got that? Why would I take a chance of taking this and it'll destroy that? So I easily turn my back to that because I got this. I don't need that. It's like that. It's easy. Or I grew up and I watched my parents and I never saw that. I saw them always in love with each other constantly, keeping that love energy going. So when I see that anti-love energy, that anti-divinity, I easily just turn from it. Imagine if we could do that, if people did that with murder. But imagine even more so, if in the way that you have forgiven yourself of adultery, forgiving yourself if you've ever stolen, if you've ever murdered, if you've ever done drugs, if you've ever battered someone, if you've ever done something, or imagine the energy the release that you felt when you forgave yourself, if we could forgive others like that. If we could recognize others like that. If we could recognize that our penitentiary systems, our history, these religious histories of, I want to bring something better to you. I'm going to force my ways onto your ways. I'm going to force how I live onto how you live. If we can say that they've made this choice, that the Native Americans made the choice to live off the land and not industrialize. So when the Europeans came, if they had said, you know what, we made the choice to follow this Christianity and we made the choice to industrialize, but these people have made the choice to follow the ways of Quetzalcoatl or follow the sky people. And they made the choice to not industrialize. We're not going to force our ways onto there. We're going to allow them to have that. And if there's ever a conflict, then I'll look inside myself and see that, is the conflict with me or is it with them? Am I having a lack of resources and I feel that I need to take from them because of my superiority? Is that an inferiority inside me? Is that a lack of the ability to be peaceful? Am I so disruptive in my distortion field that I gotta start war in order to put that on them? Imagine if people thought that way. A better world we would have. If you were in a situation where you were tempted to steal something, or you was in a situation where you was tempted to commit that adultery, but you thought, why am I committing this adultery? You know, I'm only committing it because there's a distortion in me. There's a lack of love within myself. I'm saying that this person is not loving me, but first I have to find a love inside myself. Because love is not over here either. That love, that satisfaction of love is not over here either. So it must be here, centered in me. And let me figure out how to forgive me first. I'm sorry, Lorenzo, for that feeling of adultery, that feeling of emptiness, that feeling of detachment and separation, as if I'm not connected. I'm sorry about that. You know, and I forgive you for it. I forgive you for feeling that way and not relating to the connections that you have in such a way that you know that you're connected. And you know what? I'm grateful that you took that opportunity, that time, to really look inside here and look inside self and not here and here. You took that time not to act out of character, not act out of some format that causes you to further injure this person, and yes, injure that person as well, that you kept it inside and really worked it out yourself. And you know what? I love you for that. I love you for that. I love you, dude, for doing that. Because you're taking care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself like that, you don't hurt this person. You don't hurt that person. But even if you did, you committed the act. You go through that same process. Forgive yourself. You know, I'm sorry. Then forgive yourself. And realize all that you've hurt. Forgive yourself first, and then ask for forgiveness for them. If they choose to forgive you because they recognize that spirit, that energy, that's great. But if they don't, that's on them. That's something inside them they got to hash out. They got to recognize that they have to deal with. But you've done the inner work. And see, the inner work is needed because if we understand that inner work, then we understand that we are creators just like the Creator. That everything in creation is in relationship to the thoughts and of the Creator. So everything in your universe is in relationship to your own thoughts, to how you deem them. We have to participate if we choose not to. We do not have to allow ourselves to follow authorities that are distorted, disoriented, that are forcing their will on us, on anyone else, on foreign, simply because there's an air of superiority and some book told them to. You relate to your universe. Understand how you have the choice to decide how things relate to you. And the moment you become a master of how you relate to the universe, how you relate to every situation, every question, every instinct, every desire, every energy, and you recognize those energies, then you'll stop looking back in the past. You'll stop saying, man, if I had only known that back then, if I hadn't made this mistake, then you'll recognize that, you know what? I learned a lesson from that one. I recognize that energy. I know the energy of procrastination. So when it comes upon me again, I know how to switch it. I know the energy of apathy. I know how to switch it. I know the energy of poor finances. I know how to switch it. I know the energy of whatever that is. I know how to switch it. But as you develop and learn and understand that, your life will start getting so much better. You'll start seeing things so differently. You'll release that earthly attachment. Many people won't think their crowns are open, but your crown is not open because you are still holding on to the earthly attachments. You think that when a loved one passes on that you've been separated from them. But if you recognize how the third eye creates that illusion, the block in the third eye is the illusion that you're separated, that we're individualized, you recognize that you're never separated, that we are all one, that melanin doesn't matter, we're all connected, that person moved on, but you're not disconnected from them, you're still connected. So you release the earthly attachment to the survival of the flesh and start truly living by the divinity of your God, goddess inside. You start doing that, the whole world changes, everything changes, everything's different. Sure, you're still going to work, you're still going to eat, you're still going to have friends, you're still going to do things, you're going to have your ups and downs. But even in what you call a failure, it's never a failure. It's just an energy that you recognize and you keep moving forward. You keep living in the present, not in the past, not in the future, the present. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Got a little long-winded today, but remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is not negotiable.